Let's face it, our industry has morphed. I've been in this business almost 20 years. I cut my teeth with VRMA, and we have serious fights on our hands. But without that, I wouldn't be where I am.
Before COVID, people were barely talking about vacation rentals, right? They were talking about staying in hotels. And now they're more talking about vacation rentals. And now we have regulations because of they've blown up, and we've had some bad actors out there.
We cringe every time we talk to somebody who's like, oh yeah, well, I was, getting my education from this guy on YouTube who does like rental arbitrage and, whatever. And so it's like, oh gosh, we have to get all on the same page.
There's also a big majority out there that don't know our organizations exist and that we could be supporting them.
There's room for everyone. We need everyone in that conversation and doing that shared lift together.
We always talk about collaboration over competition, but what does that mean? Welcome to Alex Nanny, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are joined today by a whole panel of vacation rental superstars. We have from VRMA, the Executive Director, Ann Gardner, and Chair of the Board of Directors, Jodi Refosco. Along with from VR Nation, we have President Matt Tesdall and Executive Director Heidie Henriksen. Welcome, everybody.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Well, we've got a group here, so I know it's going to be hard to rein everybody in, but we thought the easiest thing to do is just kind of go around, and I don't know how we all look to each other on the screen, but maybe start with Ann and Jodi and then go over to Matt and Heidie. Just a little introduction about yourself and what you do in vacation rentals.
Sure. Thanks so much for having us. This is first for me since joining the team with VRMA, but as you said, I'm Ann Gardner. I am the Executive Director for VRMA, and I have been with the team since the end of April of 24, and really glad to be here. Come from a background in organized real estate and property management and commercial real estate as well. And so just really, really super glad to be part of our industry. I'm a completely hooked fan and all in, and just really glad to be here and learn from these pros today on our call.
Hi, I'm Jodi Refosco. I am the VRMA board chair, and I am out of Western Maryland. I have a vacation rental company of about 10 properties. Before this, I had a company of over 500 homes, but I've been in the industry for probably 25 years, and I'm real excited to be here, and I appreciate you guys inviting us and looking forward to the conversation.
I'm Matthew Tesdall, president of VR Nation. I currently reside south of Portland, south of all the fun activities over COVID, but closer to the wine country. So if you like wine, this is where you need to come. I own Family Time Vacation Rentals along with my wife. We're in Oregon, Idaho, and southern Utah. So happy to be on and join all these amazing people.
Great. Happy to be here too. I'm Heidie Henriksen, Executive Director at VR Nation. Joined the association in August of last year, 2024. And I have about a 25-year career in short-term rentals, starting as a host myself and then working for a luxury property manager in Park City, Utah. Worked for quite a few different facets of the vacation rental industry, and most recently co-founded a nonprofit called Astro. And then, like I said, joined VR Nation just last year. So excited to be here today.
Awesome. Well, super excited to have you guys. And I think, today we wanted to just learn a little bit more about what's going on between the two organizations and most importantly, the event that you both have coming up in April. There's two great events coming up, one on this side of the East Coast in Savannah and the other one down in Austin. Maybe just give us, and we can kick it off with you, Heidie, just kind of an idea of what you're looking forward to for you guys. This is your second conference as VR Nation, but how many for the whole association now?
So VR Nation launched in 2011, and I think our conferences, if I recall, Matt, you might have to help me out here, started in about 2015 on a regional basis. So last year, our regional conference in Boise was when we announced our rebrand and migration to a national organization. So this is in April, our first national conference. We're incredibly excited about.
VR Nation going from Northwest BRP, which is a regional Northwest conference in Hawaii and Canada and those kind of places, really has been about a 2-year project that we've worked on in the board. I've been part of the board for about 6 years in different capacities, currently the president for this year and next year. But that's what we were excited about. Our conference has always been intimate and a lot of fun, a lot of collaboration, and a lot of just working together. And that's what our vendors say when they've come. And it's the same vendors that go to all these conferences, whether it's VRMA or us. And so that's just super exciting. We're really excited to have this in Austin, the end of April there, the 27th and 28th on Sunday, Monday, at the JW Marriott. And so that's exciting. And I know you, Jodi and Ann, you guys have it's the Frontline conference, right, in Savannah?
Yeah, we have our Frontline Excellence Conference is April 14th to the 15th in Savannah at the Convention Center. We had a Eastern Conference, I think there years ago. It was a great event. It's a great location. It's kind of close to a lot of drive-to market there, and we pivoted. So, like, give you guys some history is that we used to have like in the spring an East Coast show and a West Coast show, and we years ago made them to be one event, which is supposed to alternate coast, the spring forum, and it was supposed to work towards the front line, but kind of just grew and we kind of came more of like a mini international. So it was a little bit bigger than what we intended. So this conference, we pivoted, we moved it to Savannah. We moved it to kind of focus on operations, front desk, and then their managers. So there's like 3 tracks. So it's very different than what we've seen in the past, much more of a smaller, intimate setting than we have seen. But it's real exciting. It's something that I really look forward to, but it's definitely different than what you guys would have seen in spring the past couple years.
I remember back in the day, Jodi, that when VRMA had like you said, the East West, I'd
Mhm.
always go to the Western Conference because I
Yep.
liked it because it wasn't small, but it was smaller than
Yes.
the national conference, and it was in Reno. And you had one of the best closing closing, not seminars, but closing speaker that talked about bringing all the stuff you learn in this during the show and how to implement it throughout the year. And it was all done with sticky notes. I've used this so many times in different organizations. I loved it. And I kept that. And back then, I was working on my desk in the kitchens where I built the business. And I had it posted up on the wall, all my sticky notes. My wife was like, "What is that?" I go, "It's my action plan for the year." And I could take a sticky note off every time I accomplished it. I use that so much.
Yeah, I was always at the Eastern Conference, right? And then my father used to be on the board too back in the day, and he brought me out to a Western Conference. And well, I'm a mountain region, right? But just on the East Coast, so just smaller mountains than everybody's got out there. So I remember coming out to the Western Conference. I'm like, this is amazing. It's like my people. I found them. It was really because it was enlightening. I was like talking about things that are mountain, thinking it was brand new ideas, and here it. No, I just haven't been talking to the mountain people.
Yeah, you got to come to the West Coast, the Wild West.
Yeah, it was very cool. So no, yes, I remember the West Coast, East Coast, but this will be different. So it's going to be cool, more operation style, and line to bring more employees with you, more staff with you, and that it's more cost effective. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. I know Annie and I attended when it was NWVRP 2 years ago in Reno, and that was actually the first time I had ever been to Reno. But that was a great event, and one thing that we really loved about that was exactly what you said, Matt, that it was more of an intimate kind of feel, a smaller conference, but also it just had a different kind of feel to it than some of the conference. And I think that's one thing that I've noticed is just conferences have different feels when you're there, like just the atmosphere and the tone and the way that things are run, like it has a different vibe depending on what show that you're at. But and you guys do some fun things that we didn't get to see it last year, but I saw videos of the housekeeping Olympics that you did. Are you doing anything like that this year?
We're doing a couple. We're doing the host GPO pickleball, which I think, aren't you guys doing that too? Are you doing a pickleball? Did I see that?
They do that at international
The
conference. They
international
have a
in Vegas.
pickleball tournament. Yeah.
Vegas in October, right?
Hmm.
The Cedars, yeah. But anyway, yeah, so we're doing that second annual with Host GPO. And then also we're doing the second annual housekeeping Olympics. I think, Heidi, we've added a couple categories to that this year?
We did. We had 3 categories last year. So this year we're adding a 4th category revolving shower curtains. So it's meant to be fun, engaging, and still very educational. So we kind of point out best practices for cleaning teams and operational teams on those different aspects. And there's a vacuum relay, there's a bed making competition, and there's a gorgeous golden trophy up for grabs. So it's going to be a good event.
It sounds very Dirk.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but is somebody gonna show us how to fold, fitted sheets? Because that's the thing that's still
Joe will help
still
you.
absolute okay.
He's got the wingspan. Yeah, mine never looked like his.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I think is really interesting for the VRMA is just the pivot back to kind of what you used to do, and I think that that's going back to the core of what VRMA was years ago, and I think it's good because it's got people talking this year and are excited, and knowing that we're not going to be able to go to, like, I'm not doing both for my company. I'm going to do VR Nation and then do the international, but I think that's like spreading people's thought processes out over multiple conferences, and it's fostered a sense of more collaboration, which I think is again what this podcast is about. This episode is about, is talking about the collaboration between the organizations. So I thought like maybe Anne and Heidi, from your perspective, the two different associations, where do you guys see the collaborative effort moving forward for you guys?
Sure. I think that's a great question and great segue. And so, from our perspective, as far as in being able to bring VRMA forward and make sure that we're really aligned with where our members are and where our industry really has areas of need for us to be involved, is to start, just as we said, first off with the programming, and but then moving into the fact that we are year round. We're a trade organization representing an industry, and the areas of concern and protection within advocacy, and making sure that we are in that leadership role as far as research and providing insights and being able to support our members in the state and local affiliation organizations, but also just throughout the country and in those efforts. And so that's a real area where VRMA is, I think, has a great opportunity in a collaborative frame. And so, Heidi, we were part of a conversation with a couple of other organizations a few weeks ago. I think we have another conversation coming up this week, and just being able to see how we can be additive in protecting our industry, making sure that you have the right for use and enjoyment and to build your business and to grow your business. And so that we're doing it in ways that are adding to our communities and really showing the true economic impact and value. And so those are conversations where there's room for everyone. We need everyone in that conversation and doing that shared lift together. And so for me, that's really the first area that I come to where we say, here's fantastic collaborative opportunity where we can all lift.
Well said, Anne. I'd love to chime in also. I know one of the first things I did in my new role was reach out to Anne and invite her and another representative to our conference, and then us do the same. We met in person for a good hour and had a wonderful conversation about how our two organizations can be complementary to our efforts and what we do for the industry as a whole, and really focusing on elevating standards together. So we've had good conversations. We've come together on the advocacy front to make sure that we're complementary on those efforts as well, in partnership with some other organizations. And from an industry perspective, if you look at other industries such as the hotel world, you've got multiple organizations supporting everyone as a whole. And that's something we're very focused on doing as well with this in VR Nation and VRMA's collaboration. So making sure all those resources are available.
Great. Matt and Jodi, maybe pivot over to you guys. So, from your perspective, what do you see the ability to collaborate moving forward? I think, you guys, Jodi, you've been with VRMA for a very long time and have already been kind of in the leadership roles on the board. What do I think that the idea of bringing the associations together to work together is something that we've all wanted to see. So I think it's really great that this is happening. But from your each individual, kind of vantage points within the organizations, what do you see beyond advocacy? What do you see other collaborations that are possible?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is, first of all, this, I feel like this is great. I mean, I've been a part of VRMA. I was on the VRMA board, I think starting in 2013, maybe. And I was the president then. And at that time, there was no other like conferences or associations kind of similar to us. And then out of COVID, they all sprang up. And I feel like our industry has changed so much since then, right? Our industry has grown rapidly, especially since COVID, and a lot of different associations. Like I remember you guys up there when you had the NWVRMA, and it was Michelle Aquavella was
Yeah.
on it, right? Was
It
that
was
right?
VRMA law.
Yeah. Yes, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I remember her trying to bring us together on different levels. And, ways that we could work together. And I think we struggled a little bit then. And so when I came back onto the board and when I took this position, I'm like, let's collaborate. There's no reason that we all sit in our silos. What we're all doing is trying to lift the professionalism of our industry inside and outside of advocacy. Right. We're more well known than like before COVID, people were barely talking about vacation rentals, right? They were talking about staying in hotels. And now they're more talking about vacation rentals. And now we have regulations because of they've blown up and we've had some bad actors out there. So I think collaboration could be alongside of we could talk about different conferences and lift each other up because I feel like we also do fill a different space, right? And I think working together. I mean, I just with the board did a 2.5 day board retreat in January, and we were doing a whole strategic plan and operation analysis. And one of the things was collaboration. I mean, it was a big part of what we talked about. So I look forward to conversations like this with David and Heidie and all the other associations out there because I feel like we all fill a space and have a lane a little bit. I mean, it does kind of go over a little bit, but I feel like we all can lift each other up. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, very well said, Jodi. That's exactly how we feel. Let's face it, our industry has morphed over the years. Okay, I mean, COVID and before that, and some of the OTAs that have come along in recent this last decade has really changed our landscape. And we have serious fights on our hand. I know you mentioned advocacy, but there's other things as well. And it's having that local representation. Sometimes it's the smaller groups, the bigger groups. I mean, just that in general is so important to us. I agree with what Heidie said. I've been in this business almost 20 years. I cut my teeth with VRMA. I did. That's where I started when I was doing my on the West Coast mostly, honestly. And then when you would have the regional or the national conferences on the West, that's where I would go. But without that, I wouldn't be where I am on the educational standpoint. And back in those days, serving on the ambassador program and being involved in that. And when new members come on and thanking them and said, thanks for being there and meeting them at the conference. And anybody who knows me, I'm really more of an in-person kind of guy. I really like the talking to people in person, and this is great. I love this, but this is not natural. Um, but it's so the educational piece is key. And just for me personally, it's about networking. I love the networking. That's what I love about us coming together and having more moments like this, whether it's in Vegas at a national conference or an executive summit. All of that is really key. And you have one coming, the executive summit, right, in May, I think.
Yeah, we have one. So we have a second kind of spring event, but this is more senior level, May 28th, in South Beach. And it's, have you guys been to an executive summit?
I haven't actually, no.
So I was president of VRMA when we had our first one, but my fifth grader was graduating fifth grade and I couldn't miss it. So I went for the board meeting and literally missed running the first executive summit. Mike Henriksen ended up running it for me, and then just that time of year was really hard for me. So I went last year and I loved it. I love smaller, intimate set. There's a reason for the larger ones, but there's also a reason for the smaller ones. And that one's more, it's all executive level. So it's more of like a high level networking. And something that's different this year is we're bringing the suppliers or the sponsors into the room with us because I feel like it's very important to be able to collaborate with them too. Because it's nice when you're like trying to drive an idea, right? And you sit down and look, well, have you seen this across the industry? Because I only see what I see in my area, right? And it's not just VRMs, but the suppliers too. So that's coming on the 28th. If you haven't gone, you guys should come. It was so amazing. And you talk about your sticky notes. I had like notebooks upon notebooks. And I had a whole notebook full of just ideas because it was like, and it was more intimate. So like you can ask questions and like get answers from other senior level execs. So it was kind of cool. I'm excited about it.
If I can also offer, Alex and Annie, we know you're fans of being able to pass along opportunities, and so we have also reimagined this event, and that it is completely new with a whole new focus and effort. And so we wanted to provide to your viewers a discount code that we will share with you for trying out the Executive Summit and just how that is also sort of reimagined new, as Jodi said, much more intimate, but the level of programming and detail that's involved in this event it's really driven by a super engaged number of our members. And as we said, it is not about the content in a room and keeping folks in like an exhibit hall. It's really a truly participatory and integrated event, because the fact is that our innovation doesn't come from one side of our industry. Our innovation comes from the whole, and so we're all learning and growing together, and so participating. And it's a new focus, and in some regards, I think, as you said, Matt, it's a return home, if you will. So.
Yeah, that's such a great point too. And I think, the vendors and suppliers in this space have gotten kind of frustrated at some events over the last few years just because they felt separated from where the property managers are. And, so a lot of that comes down to the venue, really, to be honest. But I think having them in the same place is going to be great. And, at the end of the day, the suppliers in our space are so important to what we all do. I mean, they're seeing things from a different lens than we are as property managers, and vice versa. But as the suppliers, that they get to talk to companies all over the country and in the world, the perspective that they bring back to property managers is really important. So I think it is good to have them more in those active conversations, and not so much of, okay, they're walking by a booth and they're going to try and grab you, but like, let's have like real authentic conversations. And that's how sales should happen anyways, right? So I'm sure they're going to be just thrilled about that.
Yeah, it's like speed dating.
Yeah, right, exactly. We'll be back in just a minute, but first, a message from our premier brand sponsor, Beyond.
I'm Nicole Gross.
I'm Terry Gross.
And we're the co-owners of Novation Realty, LLC in Honolulu, Hawaii. And we've been using Beyond since summer 2021. When we were looking for dynamic pricing software, we started looking online and asking some of our colleagues, and Beyond had the very best reputation out of all of the other competitors. So right now we're actually using, I believe, all of Beyond's products. It's really anything that we can automate using Beyond and trusting their customer support and their software that's always improving, we have put in Beyond's hands. The dynamic pricing and the data tracking, those two are both equally important. Having the data to show why we're making pricing decisions and also what properties can earn has given us confidence to talk to new owners and to talk to owners that are frustrated with the reality of a fluctuating market. So knowing that we're staying on top of all of the changes, as our market in Hawaii is very seasonal, and having the backup to talk to owners existing and new about that with that data is really powerful for us.
So for my side of the business, I'm kind of the one talking to a lot of the owners. Really showing owners what the potential can be for their units has been a really big thing for us. It's grown our company tremendously, especially during the peak seasons where we'll see rents that are typically half of what we've been booking for because we've never been on a dynamic schedule before.
Beyond's data tracking has allowed me to compare our portfolio against our state's local reporting on the STR market. And according to that comparison, in 2024, we beat the local STR market by 34%, which is really big for us. We really enjoy using Beyond. It's been revolutionary for our business. We are now in a huge growth phase during the slow market, which is crazy. And we've heard feedback from other sales agents and owners that they've talked to our competitors and they don't have the data that we have. And that is what is helping a lot of people make decisions.
Do you want to keep pricing these properties yourself every day? Or do you want to have a professional do it? If you are really serious about growing any kind of vacation rental company, you really do need the data and the backup from Beyond to help you move forward. It's very difficult in any market to fully, truly understand what's going on in the area, and Beyond will help you do that.
Ready to maximize your vacation rental revenue with smarter pricing? Beyond makes it easy with cutting-edge dynamic pricing and revenue management tools. Get started today with a $50 credit and free onboarding when you sign up at beyondpricing.info/Alex and Annie. Take control of your pricing strategy with Beyond today.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these vendors, they were PMs at one point.
Right.
Or maybe they just have a
and vice versa, it goes both sides.
And over the years, these become our friends, honestly. And we hang out, we go visit them. They come here and drink wine. Like, you go to your beach. I mean, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys. So we had recently interviewed Tim Rosolio from VRBO. And one of the things that we talk about on the show a lot is education and how do we get education in front of those new entrants to the space. And I think that, VRMA a few years ago announced that they were going to allow people that were, smaller operators, one unit to join the association. And it kind of like when it was announced, there was like two schools of thought. Some people were like, absolutely not, we don't want them. And other people, like Alex and I had this conversation too. Like I was like, we have to get them in. We want them in like from the beginning. You could get them to water, but can you make them drink? But like looking at, I think VR Nation, you've taken a kind of a similar approach, but because you haven't been around as long and maybe have like this legacy belief system that that the members have, that you want to engage with these smaller PMs. And so what do you see? I feel like between the two associations continuing to jump off the collaboration part, there's an opportunity to really engage with these smaller operators in these niche markets, these newer markets that sort of have emerged that aren't your traditional vacation rental or maybe short-term urban markets, to help them get educated. So do you see that there's like education sessions and maybe webinars, things that both associations can do together that we can offer out to the larger community of short-term rentals?
Heidi, you have a big passion on this. You want to take this one from the VR Nation side?
Sure, yeah. I know that's a big piece of our focus. I would say at least 20% of the content at our conference, at our roadshows, and the educational initiatives that we focus on is driven and targeted at that self-managing or RBO host. Astro, the association I co-founded, has merged with VR Nation, so we have welcomed those members into our portfolio. And so we're very keen on making sure we address those individuals with all the resources that they need. A lot of them are staying in their lane and doing okay and not really looking for help, but there's also a big majority out there that don't know both of our organizations exist and that we could be supporting them. So we're definitely focused on those initiatives, and the content that those self-managing hosts are looking for or how they run their hosting businesses in most cases is very different from how a property management company operates. So trying to fulfill their needs from an education standpoint is definitely a big challenge. I mean, I would say we welcome the collaboration on that front.
And let's face it, most of us started with one or two or a handful of properties. I mean, we started with one. It was our cabin, and back in 2007, 8, you couldn't afford anything anymore because everything was going to the heck and handbag. So I told my wife, we're going to start renting this cabin out if we're going to keep it. She says, absolutely not. And I said, well, I got to sell it. She goes, okay, you can rent it.
True. Yeah. If I'd love to follow on Heidi, your energy and enthusiasm there, because we share it in that regard, and so it's exciting. And as you referenced, Annie, we had an initiative in 2022 where we said, why don't we try this out and welcome in just individuals, if you will. And so I think our membership and whatnot are showing us that the individuals who are in that space are truly their aspirational hospitality. They are looking most of the time to be in that space and grow a business. And so for us, it's a matter of really doing some research right now. Jodi and I have been talking, it seems like sometimes multiple times a day since our retreat in Las Vegas, about ways we are going to really serve up value. And you're right, Heidi, it's a bit like boiling the ocean, when the individual owner operators are looking for amenity sheets and they're looking for styling tips and, things like that. That is very different than when we have the PMS shootout, if you will, of 15 vendors broad across in a major room in the conference in October. And so it is a bit of being able to make sure that we're positioned so that when we are in that space, we're able to adequately serve the needs, and so that we're also helping them in that path forward. And so, Matt, you were talking about how VRMA gave you your start, and I will say that, to go back to our initial meeting we were talking about in April, Foundations, in the last 8 or 9 months, so many of these conversations of what does VRMA mean to you and what's been your experience, so many folks told me just what you said. VRMA helped them get their start, that VRMA was foundational to their beginnings. And so I think you can see a focus and a channel there. And so as we look into how do we work with and serve value up for the larger segment of short-term rental and vacation rental, that's definitely going to be a focus. of let's make sure we're adding value and helping someone with their business and their vision of their trajectory.
Yeah, and to add on, I mean, when we did that promotion, I think VRMA had a great idea to do that and open that up, but I feel like they didn't move fast enough to add the value that that segment needed. And I mean, I could be, example of that segment. I mean, I had a company of 520 plus properties, sold it, and now I own and manage my own properties. I have 10 of them, and there are different needs. So, when we look at VRMA and the membership now, like for us, I mean, the membership's changed. It's, to use your word, Matt, it's morphed. It's like, it's not just vacation rental managers, but it's also short-term rental managers. And Annie, I think you made it very plain to see for me when you I don't know where I heard you say it, but like you live in a vacation destination, you vacation at short-term rentals, and it's like that is a big segment. And there's a segment of the United States that I don't think is served by VR Nation or VRMA. And who is that, and who do they determine? So I think there's a lot of learning. I mean, for the industry to figure out who the property managers are, and then to address their needs. And I think that's why there is plenty of space for people to grow here and to be here. And it's collaborating so we can give the most high level education no matter what segment they are serving.
From the numbers that we see, only about 10% of the property management companies out there go to a conference in a year.
Yeah.
10%.
I would believe that.
I would totally believe that.
We have
Yeah.
90%. I mean, we have so much work to do that probably my generation is not going to finish it all. It's going to be the next after that, because it's just, we have such an opportunity. That's why I think we keep talking about collaboration, innovation, all that stuff. And that is the foundation here in education. I just think we have a long road ahead of us to bring everybody together.
Yeah, we've been asked that question quite a bit on some of the podcasts that Annie and I have been on of like, what's the difference between a vacation rental versus a short-term rental? And a vacation rental is a short-term rental, but a short-term rental isn't necessarily a vacation rental. It's kind of how we phrase that riddle back to people. Because I mean, really, the urban short-term rentals, it really is a different business model, and for them, like, that they're not getting, for the most part, I mean, like the repeat business that these vacation destinations get, it's just that's not there, right? So for those people to be trying to focus on direct bookings and repeat business, like sometimes I feel like people are selling them strategies that are just never going to inherently work. But I do think that there's more of an opportunity, not even just looking at size of property managers, but also locations and just different types, and bringing more of those people into the fold. And I will say, when we were at VRMA last fall, and then IMN, which shows, I think, kind of are good examples of VRMA, obviously more vacation rentals, and IMN is kind of more of the short-term rentals, but saw a couple operators that I know out of Ohio that they went to both. And it was nice to see that they just started going to conferences, but they do fall more in that, urban operator type of a model. But that'll be interesting to follow as we continue moving forward.
It seems like there's a lot of terms in this industry that could use some clarification on that note, Alex, between the VR and STR and all of the different acronyms. And some people call it a vacation rental management company, and others call it a property management company. And trying to bring some of that standardization to the industry would be helpful, I think, for a lot of people.
We do love our acronyms. That is one thing that is for sure. I think that you guys have started exactly what Alex and I, like when we started this podcast, one of the things that we really wanted to hone in on, not be so focused on just vacation rentals, but really kind of look at the industry overall, because it was spreading and it was growing in different areas. And so, we kind of cringe every time we talk to somebody who's like, oh yeah, well, I was, getting my education from this guy on YouTube who does like rental arbitrage and, whatever. And so it's like, oh gosh, we have to get all on the same page. But I think there's an opportunity, that rising tide lifts all boats. I mean, I think that if we're working together, we don't have necessarily the same mission, but I think if we're all kind of singing from the same hymnal, so to speak, and like, here's what your basics you should be, and then it can morph out from the different markets. I think it's at least a starting point. It just feels like we're finally in a place where people are talking. And one thing that came out of COVID that I felt like we were all in agreement on was that we needed a unified voice, but that never really kind of came together. So I applaud you guys for really trying to get that unification.
I'll say something that I saw, Heidi and Matt, is news of your roadshow, and I thought that was really exciting. We talk about how do we extend, right? How do we bring not everyone, we've had so much conversation about conferences and meetings and whatnot, and you talk about how few are actually attending. And so how do we disperse and unify and elevate the industry and when outside of those events? And so I was super excited to see about your roadshow. I'd love to hear a little bit about that and where you see that going next, because bringing the content and bringing this to our operator communities, I think is super exciting.
Really, where the vision from this came, and it's a big passion of mine when I became president, that I want to go out and I want to meet the people where they are. Not everybody either has time or money or whatever to be able to go to our conferences in different states, but that's the goal, right? But sometimes you got to bring it to them. And honestly, I learned this from Amy Heino, from remember the old VRM Intel, and when she did one here in Portland area with some vendors and herself, and it was like 50 people, super simple, lunch and some really good breakout sessions. And when I talked to the board, I said, guys, this is what we need to do. We need to be out and we need to bring it to multiple areas of the country so that smaller operators or even larger operators can just get together and we can, shake hands and kiss babies, let's say. I mean, just be close. And that's where it came from. So this year it starts in Portland on March 11th at the Kennedy School. If anybody's familiar with the West Coast, there's the McMiniman brothers that have done a great job of taking these old churches and schools, whatnot, and turning them into these fantastic venues. So this is at the Kennedy School. And then our next one in May is in Florida, I think, Heidi?
Yeah, it's in Sarasota, Bradenton area.
Yep. And then we're going to go to the Truckee, northern, Nevada, California there. And then I think then Denver or Telluride.
Q3 is Breckenridge, Q4 is Truckee, Tahoe. So trying to get around the whole country, including our conference in Austin. And like Matt said, really focused on education. We have a series of tracks on safety certifications, cleaning certifications. It's all covered by your VR Nation membership. And like Matt said, too, it's got lunch involved and bringing in some local experts. We've got the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association participating in our Portland event. So talking about some new house bills in the areas, how it could impact short-term rentals. So it really could impact the entire state. Really excited to bring this to a more local level.
Yeah. I think that's great to do also for the suppliers and your sponsors, for them to be able to go out and more, reasonably from a cost perspective, be able to get in front of managers, because it's a lot of money for them too. I mean, if they're going to a market individually to, go and set meetings, and sometimes it helps just when you're with other vendors that you have relationships with and you can kind of go at it together. So that's going to be really cool to see.
It reminds me of the VRMA Connect.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah. What's the future for that, Ann and Jodi? Do you think those will come back at some point?
Yeah, I think they're going to come back. I feel like we had to pull back everything and kind of start afresh, right? So I feel like that we had to focus on, our major events, which, we pulled back. We're not doing European. We're just doing the international, the spring event and the executive summit. But I see the connects coming. I think connects have to be strategic of where you have them. And I think it's very important to have really good boots on the ground, like operators to help out with that area. But I think it's smart to take the education content to our members. It's very smart what you guys are doing. But yeah, I see it's coming back in the future. Just we needed to start anew and kind of focus on what was most important to our members at the time.
So I wanted to ask a question about membership, just from the two different perspectives. What would you say, each of you say, is the value proposition for each organization? For anybody that's listening and thinking well, which one should I be? Should I do both? Should I do one? What should be the things that they should consider when looking at both of the associations?
I mean, for me, I don't think it's an either or. It's not an either or for me personally. So I think you'd look at the international conference, whether it's in Vegas or on the East Coast or whatever, is fantastic. You have everybody there. It can be daunting for some people who have a hard time with super large crowds because it is big. But that is the benefit for me. Just take my VR Nation hat off for a minute, and just me as a PM. So I bring my team to those, and then each of my team members, they have their focus. Whether it's a area manager for me or housekeeping manager, they can do their own meetings with their own people, and they can with their own vendors, and they can find some new products that are in there. You look at a VR Nation where I mean, we both have education, clearly. Maybe they like our housekeeping Olympics. I don't know. but, but there's fun things that we can do, very collaborative and very hands-on and just, definitely smaller than the national conference, but very impactful. And so for me, it's not either or, it's both.
Yeah, I probably go along the same line. I feel like there's we all believe in education. We're all believing in advocacy, right? We're, at VRMA, right now we're focusing on advocacy. We're focusing on the membership and the content we're giving to our members. We have the VRHP Council, which everybody that knows VRHP, it came in and merged with VRMA in 2019, 2020, I think. And then, we're working with the council now, which my husband, well, you guys have Dirk, Dirk, and my husband, Joe's been on. I think he was the president of VRHP for like 6 or 7 years. I was like, don't you go off at any time? Why are you the president forever? But we merged together. So the VRHP is a big thing for us. But no, I don't think it's either or either. I think there's things that you're going to find that are that matter to you as a member. And, I feel like, just like I said, there's going to be a lot of different associations to join, and you got to pick what you think feel that vibes best with you. And, VRMA, yes, we've been around. This is our 40th year, which, when I say I've been in business 25 years, I've been in part of VRMA for that long. Cause I was like the college kid that went around with my parents to the conferences. And so yeah, we've been around forever, but that also means we have to learn to pivot and move and change and fight because our members are moving. So I don't know. I think it's not an either or. I think is, hey, you're going to have to find who vibes best with you. And, we're all educating and we're all going to bring some different aspects to the game. So I think you should check us out.
I love that, and I agree with you. I just was curious to see if there was any differentiators, and so if somebody wants to join, could they get a deal to join both?
Ooh.
Oh, so those are conversations to be had, Miss Annie.
Well, I mean, I'm on the membership committee for VRMA, so, I'm thinking, how do we,
Yeah.
parlay this into something bigger and, help everybody out, right?
So it's interesting. That was something. So go back to Michelle Acquavella. Back in the day, that was something that we've tried to do. Like if you're a member of a local alliance, like NCVRMA or
Mhm.
Northeast VRMA or whatever it be, how can you make it membership? And I think at the time logistics was difficult. And it just didn't make sense. There's other ways to go about it. Like I've talked to Anne about well, wouldn't it be cool to have VR Nations or Amy High Note or whoever come in and do a session at one of our conferences and vice versa. Yeah. But as far as membership, I don't know. I think there is logistics there, but it is something that's been talked about for like a decade. So yeah, I'm sure there's ways to work something out.
Well, let's throw it out in the universe and make it so.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
heard it.
Anne and Heidi, no.
It also applies on the vendor side, right? There's a lot of vendors out there thinking, who should I support? Well, it's not an either or, it should be a both. We've had a lot of vendors come our way and been incredibly supportive, which is fantastic. And they're 100% backing VRMA as well. And while our board of directors is all vacation rental management company owners, we have 6 advisory boards that are comprised of individuals from all over the industry, vendors, property managers, individual hosts, thought leaders. So we're trying to bring everybody together in that sense and have a common voice on how we approach the industry, what we do with the association. But there's definitely there's room for the vendors to participate on both sides. I completely agree there.
Yeah, I think there is a ton of power in just the whole mindset there of it's not or, it's and what does that mean? We always talk about collaboration over competition, but collaboration and competition, like it's not or for any of these. So I love that, and I think this is something that's been needed within our industry for a long time. So it's super exciting to see it in front of us and see how this is going to play out this year.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's a great opportunity for us to look at how we are able to serve our industry and in those supportive ways. And part of this is even if we're offering a similar program, everyone has their own way of doing it, right? And so, just look at the differentiation within our operators and our companies. And so it's always a different flavor and an opportunity to improve and enhance and build upon what we all have done, and say, I personally am really invigorated and inspired by what our colleagues are doing with VR Nation, and I think it just helps sharpen everyone and brings us all forward. And so I find it invigorating and stimulating, and can't wait to see how things develop for us both.
Iron sharpens iron.
Exactly. It's another
Yeah.
good one too.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And the heart and soul of this industry, I feel, is your biggest competitor taking you over to meet the lead that you've been trying to get in touch with for the last 6 months, right? We are all in this to work together to get ahead. It is not an all for one mentality. So
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
co-opetition, as we always say on the show. It's co-opetition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly. Well, super awesome having you guys here today, and we can't wait to be in attendance at these shows this spring. I know personally I'll be at VR Nation and the VRMA Executive Summit. And Annie, you're going to VR Nation. Awesome. Well, we can't wait to hear how it goes after all of them, and maybe we'll do a recap before we go into the fall to hear how everything went. But thank you guys so much, and we appreciate everything that you do for the industry and just your true passion towards just helping out, because this is not an easy job that any of you have, and not even your main job, except for maybe Anne, but or Heidi. Are you full time too, Heidi?
I am, yes.
You are? Okay, so you guys do, but yeah. Awesome. Well, if anybody wants to reach out, we're going to put your contact information in the show notes, just so it'll be easier to do that. But if anyone wants to get in touch with Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in, everybody.